There it is. All right. Good morning. So I just want to take this time real quick to thank all of you. I want to thank the elders here and the youth and Britt and Lisa and everybody here for making me feel loved and a part here. And I want to thank you also that even though you've gotten to know me and have spent the summer with me, you still are letting me preach. Y'all are some of the nicest people there are. This morning I want to talk about God's family. Our passage will be, we'll be focusing in on 1 Corinthians 12 through 26 this morning. It's actually really ironic because this flows really well with what Britt's been talking about the past few weeks. Family is a big deal to me. I was raised really to put God first and family second. If you can't see that family is a big deal, you've got this whole section about 30 or 40 people down here that prove that. Family is a big, big deal. And I've had to really start thinking about family a lot since, like Britt said, I've recently become engaged and planning on getting married October of next year. And I'm extremely excited, but I've had to start thinking about family and raising a family and being part of my own family and everything. And it's amazing. Family is an amazing thing. And hold on, I've got the clicker. There we go. I knew I was forgetting something. Family is a big deal. Some of us come from wonderful, wonderful families. Some of us not so much. But family is a wonderful thing, and that's what we're going to be talking about this morning. Family is also a weird thing. If you can't tell, just look at this group down here. Family is weird. Family's not easy a lot of the times. I'm sure all of us can sit for hours and hours just telling stories about weird things that have happened in our families. There's always a black sheep of the family. Maybe that's you. Maybe you're the weird one. I hope I didn't just make you have a revelation. But family is a weird thing. If you don't believe it, take a look at this family. That's a weird family. I mean, I like cats, but I don't know. This family's pretty weird. And this family, I love this picture. If you've ever tried to take pictures with little kids, it is a chore to get them to pay attention, to actually smile. Well, this family has done it. This family has said, look, we're going to do this. We're going to take a beautiful picture. And they did almost. I just picture this child on the end here saying, Mom, Dad, can I wear my Halloween mask in the picture? And for some reason, they're like, well, why not? That sounds great. That's a great idea. I mean, if you go into a family's house and you see this on their wall, that's a red flag to be like, where am I? What is this? But we can't say that these families aren't wonderful families, can we? Just by looking at these pictures, they may be weird, but they may be the most loving people that you've ever met. God has valued family from the very beginning. And even though we looked at those pictures and we see that family's kind of a weird thing sometimes, the beautiful thing about it is that God has always valued family. Family is a thing that comes from God. In Genesis 2:24, it talks about God creating Eve and man leaving his father and mother and taking to his wife and becoming one flesh and insinuating that they're going to have a family. And that's the very beginning. In Exodus 20:12, it talks about children obeying their fathers and mothers. Psalm 127, 3 through 5 is a beautiful illustration of how children bring joy to us. In Proverbs 1:8 and 22 and 6, it talks about children obeying their fathers and mothers bringing up their children in the way that they must go. And those are just Old Testament passages. There are passages all through the New Testament that talk about how husbands should treat their wives and vice versa, and how kids should follow their father and mother's instructions. And what we're going to talk about this morning is about that, but also about what we hear in Ephesians 1, 3 through 6, where it talks about us being baptized into Christ and being like God's adopted sons and daughters. We call God Father all the time, and it's because He is our Father. And that's what we're going to talk about this morning. But what does the family look like today? Family is not pretty in America today. Nearly half of marriages end in divorce. And that is a scary, scary thought. And that number keeps rising. And with that, the number of single mothers increases. And it's increased almost 7 million in the past 30 years, and single moms are the most impoverished group in the nation. 1 in 3 children is born to unmarried parents. I just want you to picture 3 kids standing up here. Statistics show in America that one of those kids is born to unmarried parents, and if you take away one of those kids, 1 in 2 children will live in a single-parent home at some point in their childhood. Family values have decreased in a ridiculous way in America. And this is what happens whenever we forget that God is the one that instituted family, that God created family. And if you don't believe me, take a look at this. These are statistics that talk about religion and families in America. And this is all religion, but because it's America, it's overwhelmingly, it's going to be Christian, loosely, that we're talking about. Statistically speaking, couples that make spirituality a significant part of their lives have happier marriages in almost every single way. Their children act better. The fathers and mothers raise their children better and more involved. Couples in which the husband and wife both frequent and are active members in church services were 2.4 times less likely to have a marriage end in divorce. Not 2.4%, 2.4 times less likely to have their marriage end in divorce. And fathers who frequent church services and are a part of their church are more likely to be involved with their children and infant children. This should open our eyes a little bit, right? Whenever we take God out of the picture, things fall apart. But whenever we see, even loosely, bringing God into our families are better, function so much better. Family is a beautiful thing. Let's get into our passage today. 1 Corinthians 12 through 26. It says, "The human body has many parts, but the many parts make up one whole body. So it is with the body of Christ. Some of us are Jews, some are Gentiles, some are slaves, and some are spirit, some are free. But we have all been baptized into one body by one Spirit, and we all share the same Spirit. Yes, the body has many different parts, not just one part. If the foot says, 'I'm not a part of the body because I'm not a hand,' that does not make it any less part of the body. And if the ear says, 'I'm not a part of the body because I'm not an eye,' would that make it any less part of the body? If the whole body were an eye, how would you hear? Or if the whole body were an ear, how would you smell anything? But our bodies have many parts, and God has put each part just where He wants it. How strange a body would be if it had only one part. Yes, there are many parts, but only one body. The eye can never say to the hand, 'I don't need you,' and the head can never say to the feet, 'I don't need you.' In fact, some parts of the body that seem weakest and least important are actually the most necessary. And the parts that we regard as less honorable are those we clothe with the greatest care. So we carefully protect those parts that should not be seen, while the more honorable parts do not require this honor and care, special care. So God has put the body together such that extra honor and care are given to the parts of the body that have less dignity. Listen to these last 2 verses. This makes for harmony among the members, so that all members care for each other. If one part suffers, all the parts suffer with it. And if one part is honored, all the parts are glad." The principles in this are not just for here at West Freeway. It's not just for inside of a church building. These are things that we have to carry into our homes. We are a family. Verses 12 through 14 and 20, we are one body made up of many members. Here, we're a big body made up of a bunch of little families. We are one big family made up of a bunch of individual families. And just like at home, if there's a 3-person household, each of those people make up one family. They all play a part. Verse 13, we come from different walks of life, but that does not make us any less part of the family. Just like it said, some are Jews, some are Gentiles, some are slaves, some are free. We could take that and say some are rich, some are poor, some are black, some are white, but that doesn't make us any less part of the body. Some of us were born into the church pretty much. We've been in the church our whole lives. Some of us were 50 years old before we decided to become a Christian. Does that make us any less important? Not at all. We are all parts of the body and we all play a part. Verse 26, we are all vital parts of the family. Just like in your homes, each and every one of you plays a part. And here, each and every one of you plays a part. Whether you're not doing anything or doing something, you still affect the family. We are a family here. But we cannot expect to have successful families until we make being a part of God's family our biggest priority. At home, we see families deteriorating. When in our households, we see arguments, we see things breaking our families apart. And I thoroughly believe, just like we saw in those statistics, we have taken a God-given thing and tried to remove it as far from God as possible. And whenever that happens, our church family falls apart. Because if you think about it, how much time do you spend here as opposed to how much time you spend at home or at work or at school? Your families play an important part, but we cannot expect our families to be successful if we don't make God a part of it. God's family should not be full of passive attendees, but should be full of active followers of Christ. I want to stay on this point for a minute. And this may sound, I may be getting kind of critical, but this is my last Sunday here. If you don't like me, I'm leaving anyways. But the thing is, there are too many people that just fill pews. There are too many people that are passive attendees. Is there anywhere in the Bible that you see where that's acceptable? There's not a single part. Whenever you're here with your family, you have to be part of the family. I mean, I just picture, what if I was at home with my family and everybody's doing everything and I'm just sitting in a chair? I never do anything, never talk to anybody. Am I really being a part of the family, or am I just taking up space? See, just like this passage says in 1 Corinthians, each part of the body is vital. Each member makes up a portion of the body. And whenever you're here, you play a part. Whether you choose to be a part or not of being in worship, you're still a part of this family. And there is no room for passive attendees in the body of Christ. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. Christ was not passive. People followed Christ. Every example we have in the Bible is somebody doing something good, and they're taking risks. They're living recklessly for Christ. And that's what we have to do. That means instead of being another part of the building during worship, you need to be in here. If that means, I didn't get stuff ready for class. I would love to go to worship, but I have to get this class prepared. Then come early or leave late. You need to be in here worshiping. That's just how it is. This is your family. And you have to get your families involved with this family. Because like we've said, and like this passage says, our families at home, we should bring God into our families at home too. This isn't just a West Freeway thing. This is at our house. This is our homes, the way we raise our kids. Because whenever we're active followers of Christ, beautiful things happen. Beautiful things. We love each other deeper. We care for each other more. We serve each other more. We become less important ourselves, and we see the importance of other people and how vital they are. These are just some questions that I thought about, because I think it's very important and very healthy for us to evaluate ourselves. Even if we feel like we're strong in the faith, we still need to evaluate where we're at. When was the last time you taught a class here? Or maybe when was the last time you woke up early enough to come to class? Or when was the last time you participated in a class and didn't just sit on your phone? When was the last time you volunteered to cook a meal or clean up afterwards or maybe donate materials to the kitchen? When was the last time you visited someone in the hospital or sent flowers or a card? When was the last time you talked to someone at work or school about Jesus? Do people at work or at school even know you're a Christian? When was the last time you sacrificed time to help someone in need? Maybe you see someone on the side of the road that needs a tire change, or maybe there's an elderly person that lives on your street that needs their lawn mowed. Do your neighbors even know who you are? Do you even know your neighbors? When was the last time you came to an event? Whether it's VBS or a summer youth series or camp or anything. Because here's the thing. Each and every person in this room plays an important part that is unique and beautiful, and other people cannot do what you do. Let me explain that real quick. This is a list of people that I have that I've seen use their talents for God. Danny is one of our friends, and we went to church with him for a while. And he is an artist, wonderful artist. And he would paint pictures and do drawings for the Sunday sermons every Sunday. And it made you look at things from a more creative perspective, and it illustrated the point a lot better. And kids loved it, and the members loved it, and it was the way that he worked in his family there. Larry was a man that drove the van. Now, just to say that he's a driver is kind of insulting, but that's what he did. He was kind of a secret servant in our youth group. Whenever there was a driver needed, Larry was there. And he worked. It wasn't like he didn't have anything better to do. That was what he did. And over the years, as I talked to him, I learned, wow, this man is incredible. And he sacrificed so much time. And Phoenix, she's lived across the street from me ever since I was little. And she bakes some good cookies. You know which cookies are hers because there aren't any on the plate. There aren't any left because everybody grabs them as soon as they get in the potluck. And she sends cards. And she's an encourager. Gosh, she's got to be in her late 80s, right? And she still goes to work and gets home late at night because she's visiting people and sending cards. I don't know the last time that I didn't get a birthday card from her. Steve is that guy. Almost every church has a Steve. Steve is the first person you come to whenever you walk through the doors, and he'll give you a big hug, and he'll encourage you. And that's just what he does. And that's his part in the family. Porter, an incredible, incredible man, extremely intelligent, but he always did the announcements before church started. And he would tell a joke, and he would get church started on the right foot. And whenever he wasn't there, it was just kind of different. But that's what he did. That was his ministry. And then you have people like Britt, who speak the word. You have people like the elders who lead this congregation. And whenever I say other people cannot do what you do, there are other preachers, sure. There are other elders. There are other people that drive vans. But there is no other Britt farmer. There is no other Britt farmer that preaches the way he does. There is no other James Herring, right? They're unique. And what they do is unique and beautiful because they're the ones that do it. And that's what we have to think about. If we're going to be part of the family and we're going to be an active part of the family, we've got to think, well, how can I be a member of the family? How can I commit myself to this family? How can I commit myself to Christ more? What is different about me? What am I talented at that I can use to reach people for Christ, whether here or at work or at school or wherever? This is just a list of people that I've been affected by. They probably don't even realize how much they've affected me because I see, wow, they've done something simple but beautiful because it's them doing it. If you say, well, I can drive a van, but I know somebody else will drive a van. Or, I could be a preacher, or I could, lead the youth or speak at an event, but I'm sure somebody else will do it. Is that being an active follower of Christ? See, whenever you do it, it makes it that much more special. Because you have said, I know what I can do for this family. I know what I can do for my family at home and leading them closer to Christ, and I'm going to do it. And you bring your own flavor, you bring your own ministry, and it's beautiful. And you start working for Christ. And that's what we have to do. Because too often we just fill pews. Too often we say to ourselves, because I'm not a preacher, I guess I can't really do anything. Or I'm not good at speaking in front of people or leading singing, so I can't really do much. You haven't thought enough. Man, every one of us has a talent. Every one of us can do something amazing for Christ. Because a body cannot function without every one of its members working together for a common goal. It'll eventually destroy itself. I used to have really bad problems with migraines. And whenever my head would start hurting, my stomach would start hurting. And if you've ever had other problems, you might have a problem with your leg, well, then it eventually goes to your back and it hurts your back. See, whenever one member of our family isn't working, it affects everybody else. It affects the whole body. And you may think, well, I go to church, I'm there. But it's pretty easy to go sit in a seat and then walk out the door at the end of service, isn't it? It's pretty easy to just sit on our phones and not really pay attention. It's pretty easy to make excuses and not be a real member of the family. Whenever you're part of a family, you're committed. Whenever you're part of a family, you say, you know what? Family comes first. Christ comes first. And that's what we have to do to have successful families. We have to realize that every single member plays a part. And by separating yourself from everybody else, you're destroying the family. Because there's a rift, there's a problem. Because God's family is the most important family we will ever be a part of. Because it is our eternal family. One of the hardest realizations you can make is that not everybody's going to heaven. It's hard. Members of our family, some of them may not go to heaven. Best friends we have may not go to heaven. Now, we can't be the judge, but we know what the Bible says, and we see the way people live. And it's hard to realize that. And that makes it even more important to live that life, to say, you know what? My family doesn't end here. I have to take this home too. I haven't really been bringing my kids to church. Well, I should start doing that. Or I should quit just dropping them off at an event and not sticking around to see what's happening. See, whenever we decide that we're going to commit to the family, it brings so many other people around us. Because we all have families at home and we all know people that should be here, but are we really letting them know that? Are we really seeing the importance of that this is an eternal family? Because I may have members of my family, my physical family at home, that may not get to heaven. But am I really trying to get them to heaven? Am I really taking this seriously enough to realize, man, I want them there with me? Because the difference is with people here, with our Christian family, we know, we don't have to worry because we know, hey, we're God's children. We're God's family. We're going to be in heaven together. I'm going to be with them for eternity. And that's so beautiful. I love thinking about that. I love seeing my family here because I know, man, I love that my family makes God a priority in their lives. I don't have to worry about them. I don't have to worry that, we all have problems. We all have things come up, but you know what? At the end of the day, I know where I'm going. But are we taking that seriously whenever we go to work or whenever we go to school or whatever we think, well, I know my mom and dad aren't Christians and I really, really want them to be a part. Are you really living that life? Are you really committed? So I ask you this morning, what is keeping you from being part of the family? What is it? We see problems and we see divisions, and there's nothing worth splitting the family over. There's nothing. I can't think of a single thing that is important enough for us to say, you know what? I'm just not going to be part of that family anymore. That's the devil working. That's Satan telling us, you know what, that family's not important. They don't love you. You don't need them. What is keeping you from being part of this family? Being a part of God's family? Maybe it's just you don't really know where your ministry is. Maybe you think, I really don't like to get up in front of people, so I can't do anything. Man, talk to somebody. Just like my friend Danny, he was an artist. He didn't want to get up in front of people and speak, but he knew he could do something. You can do anything. Talk to somebody. Talk to me. I know I'm not going to be here. Get my number. Talk to me. I'm sure I can think of something you can do. Clean something. Grab a broom. Donate something. There's all kinds of things you can do. And they may seem small, but just like 1 Corinthians says, each person plays a part. Each person plays a part in this family. You may think you're small, but there is nobody more important. There is nobody more important than, people might see Britt and say, well, he's the most important member here because he's the one preaching. That is absolutely not true. I'm sorry. But, You may feel like you're the most important, but you're not. But I'm just kidding. But there is nobody that's more important than anybody else. We all play a part. So it may be that you just don't know where your part is, where you fit in. Talk to somebody. There are tons of people here that would love to see you help out. There are tons of people here that care about you and want to see you be a part of that family. Maybe it's you realize, you know what, I really haven't been an active member. I really have just been coming to church and I've just been going through the motions. I haven't been active. I'll come on Sunday mornings, but I really haven't even taken the time to consider coming on Sunday nights or Wednesdays or helping out an event. Maybe it's you haven't made it a priority at home. Maybe it's you haven't really talked to your kids much about Christ. And you just leave it here and you say, well, church is where they should be getting it. Let me tell you something. You're not here that often. A couple hours on a Sunday morning, 45 minutes Sunday night, maybe an hour on a Wednesday night. Think about that compared to how much time you're at home. What are you doing in that time? Maybe you've realized that. Maybe you've realized that I'm just not making it a priority at home. Maybe you haven't made the decision to become an adopted son, daughter of Christ, to put Christ on in baptism. One of the most beautiful things in the world is whenever a new baby is born. My family knows it because there's one every few months. But it's beautiful, right? Whenever we see that newborn baby and we say, man, it's a miracle, it's beautiful. But there is something more beautiful than that. And that's whenever there's a new child in the family of Christ. Whenever somebody makes that decision to put Christ on in baptism and become part of that family and commit to that family of Christ. Gosh, there's nothing more beautiful than that. And maybe you've realized, well, I haven't even become part of the family. Why not? Why not? What's keeping you? So this morning, I don't invite you. God invites you. Christ invites you to be part of that family. There are people here that care about you. I know I'm leaving, but I want you to be part of this family so bad, so bad. I would love to see you become part of this family. There are elders here that will talk to you, that will sit and talk to you about how you can get involved. Find somebody, ask somebody, how can I become more part of this family? Maybe you need to make that decision to become part of the family of God. Today we encourage you to come.